A quiet neighborhood, a routine patrol. Two officers spot a young black boy walking alone. Something about him seems suspicious, they think. Without asking questions, they stop him, search him, and start throwing their authority around. The boy, calm but visibly uncomfortable, tries to explain himself, but they don't listen. The officers mock his expensive shoes and phone, asking, "Where'd you steal this from?" Their tone grows harsher as they press him harder. Then the boy does something unexpected. He pulls out his ID and quietly hands it over. The moment the officers read the name, their faces drop. They glance at each other in disbelief, their confidence crumbling. Suddenly, the situation flips on its head. The boy isn't just anyone, he's someone they can't afford to mess with. What happens next will leave everyone stunned. Stay tuned to see how this encounter takes a shocking turn. The officers stand frozen, the boy's name now echoing in their heads. They don't dare say it aloud, but it's clear they recognize it. One of them stammers, "Wait, you're..." But he doesn't finish. The boy doesn't flinch. Instead, he crosses his arms and raises an eyebrow, watching them squirm. He's no longer just a random kid on the street. They're starting to realize they've made a huge mistake. The scene feels heavy as the officers exchange nervous glances. They don't know how to recover, and the boy knows it. One officer, desperate to take control, mutters something about protocol and calls for backup, hoping to divert attention. The boy, calm but firm, finally speaks. "Do you even know who you're talking to?" His voice is quiet, but the weight of his words lands hard. The officer's hands shake as the radio crackles. What they're about to learn will change everything. As the radio buzzes with static, the boy stands his ground, his piercing gaze locked on the officers. One of them, Officer Hayes, hesitates and whispers to his partner, "What if he's serious? We need to tread carefully." The other officer, Jackson, isn't ready to back down just yet. "He's bluffing," Jackson mutters, trying to sound confident, but the tremor in his voice betrays him. Meanwhile, the boy ships his weight, his confidence growing with every passing second. "If you're calling for backup," he says calmly, "you might want to let them know who you've been harassing." His words linger in the air, unsettling the officers further. Hayes starts scrolling through his phone, nervously checking something, his expression changing when he finally confirms the boy's identity. Jackson, still determined to maintain control, snaps, "Look, kid, we don't care who you are. Rules are rules." But deep down, they both know they've already crossed a line. The tension is thick as Hayes lowers his phone, his face pale. He leans in close to Jackson and whispers something, but it's too quiet to hear. Jackson shakes his head, still unwilling to accept the situation. The boy, standing calm and composed, watches their unease with a hint of satisfaction. "You should have thought twice before assuming," he says, his voice steady but pointed. Just then, a black SUV pulls up to the curb. The door opens, and out steps a sharply dressed man with an air of authority. The officers freeze at the sight of him. It's their captain, and he doesn't look happy. "What's going on here?" he demands, his voice cutting through the silence. The boy smirks but says nothing. Hayes fumbles over his words, trying to explain. Jackson finally looks worried, his earlier confidence crumbling. The captain's eyes narrow as he glances at the boy, then back at his officers. "You two better have a good explanation for this," he warns. The captain's piercing gaze shifts between the boy and his officers, the weight of his authority filling the air. Hayes finally stammers, "Sir, we thought he looked suspicious. We were just following protocol." But the captain doesn't buy it. His face hardens as he looks at the boy, then back at them. "Do you even know who this is?" he asks sharply. Hayes and Jackson stay silent, their earlier bravado completely gone. The boy finally speaks, breaking the tense silence. "Tell them, Dad," he says casually, looking at the captain with a smirk. The revelation hits like a thunderclap. Hayes' jaw drops, and Jackson takes a step back, as if the words physically struck him. "Dad," Jackson whispers, his voice barely audible. The captain sighs, rubbing his temples. Yes, this is my son, he confirms, his tone heavy with disappointment. Before the officers can process the bombshell, the boy's phone buzzes. He glances at the screen, and his expression changes, something serious. Looks like you've got bigger problems than me, he says, holding up the phone. On the screen is a live feed, and it's about to expose everything. The live feed on the boy's phone shows a small crowd gathering nearby, phones out, recording everything that just happened. The video captures every word, every action, and every mistake the officers made. Hayes and Jackson exchange panicked looks, realizing they're already trending online. This can't be happening, Jackson mutters under his breath. The captain steps closer to his son, lowering his voice. "You're live streaming this?" he asks, a mix of frustration and disbelief in his tone. The boy shrugs. "I wasn't, but someone else was. Looks like a world gets to see how your officers treat people." His words hit like a hammer, and the captain's shoulders sag. Just when it seems like the situation couldn't escalate further, a message pops up on the boy's screen. Breaking news. Local police under fire for racial profiling incident. The boy tilts the phone toward the officers, the headline glaring back at them. The captain, now visibly furious, turns to Hayes and Jackson. "You've brought shame to this department. Hand over your badges, effective immediately." As the officers reluctantly comply, the boy watches silently. Then, just as his father turns to walk away, the boy says, "Dad, maybe this is a chance to change things, for real." The captain stops, his face softening, but he doesn't respond. Instead, he nods once and walks toward the waiting SUV, leaving the boy standing there, a quiet reminder that power and accountability go hand in hand. As the SUV drives away, the boy stands quietly for a moment, watching his father leave. The weight of everything that just happened settles in the air. Hayes and Jackson, now stripped of their authority, walk away in silence, their heads hanging low. The crowd begins to disperse, but the phones remain up, capturing every final second of the incident. The boy takes a deep breath, feeling a mix of relief and empowerment. This wasn't just about him. It was about standing up to injustice and forcing accountability. As he walks away, someone from the crowd calls out, "You did the right thing." He gives a small nod but doesn't say a word. Later that evening, the live feed and headlines spark a wave of conversations about police reform and systemic change. For the boy and his father, it's a reminder of the power of speaking up and the responsibility of leadership.